Hello AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Sigmar.
And in this video, we're asking, should all Underworld's upgrades be illusion upgrades?
Ooh, controversial, potentially. Or not, who knows, let's discuss.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with yes.
Ooh.
And I don't care what you think.
Because it's our channel and we can do what we like. But before we continue in that rant, do like, subscribe, ring the bell, and give us a thumbs up and enjoy the show.
Please do, and do put a comment below, but I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah.
We've played a game recently where I played the Illusionary Might deck.
Yep.
It was Rivals Plus, and I played the Illusionary Might deck.
Yep.
And I played it with the Gits, and so that probably informs my feelings I'm having now, because the Gits don't play that well with many other cards.
They do not play well with others.
But I just enjoyed Underworld in a way that I haven't enjoyed Underworld for quite a long time.
Many a moon.
And so maybe this is like for casual play, perhaps they should be. But
yep.
You pick up this hand of cards. Well, quite often, in days of yore when we were playing, and you worked on your deck.
Days of my what?
You played with your deck for quite some time, and you spent ages trying
tinkering with it,
trying to get it right, and then just flashbacks to my wedding night. So you draw the cards, you pick it up, and you go, oh shit! The Mulligan knows, and you okay, they've changed the Mulligan rules now. But you pick it up and go, oh, that's not really great.
I mean, that might say something about your deck in that situation.
Yeah, but there was none of that, and you literally just
played.
Pick up these cards. Okay, I've got three upgrades, but actually I can play all of them because two of them are illusion upgrades. Yep. And it's quite refreshing.
There's none of that stress.
There's no stress, and that immediately, for me, made the game better. So something about the way Underworld is designed, I think this taps into. Your objective deck, not only does scoring objectives ultimately end up with your scoring for winning. Yeah. It also drives the game. Yeah. Because if you don't get the objectives, you can't buy the upgrades. Yeah. And so it's doing two things. Yeah. And I'm not sure that's good game design actually.
Yes, because if it doesn't quite work out well, it doesn't just stifle you gaining the points to win the game. It can bugger up your entire game.
Exactly, and you can't enjoy the game because you can't play your upgrades.
Yeah.
And therefore you can't win the game because if you can't play your upgrades, you can't aren't going to score the
improve your fighters
yeah. So I think having illusion upgrades divorces that, which separates those two things, and suddenly you can just play with impunity. So you can just, I've got to drop this card on there and play it and enjoy it. So I just found it much freer.
Yeah. There's also another aspect to that, is that because they're all illusion cards and they all vanish at the end of the round, there's no overpowering one fighter and dumping all your upgrades on him. And then by the third round, it's like no one's going to bother going after that fighter because they're just unkillable. It's like, well, they're at the end of the round, boom, they're back to level peggings with everybody else. So
yeah, it kills the Voltron meta, which I don't think many people like. I think many people use it, but I think if you ask them, do you want to play it that way? I think they would probably say no. I'd rather there were different mechanics. I mean, I didn't have to do that, but I like to win, so I do this. And so I feel like again that having illusion upgrades completely stops that.
Yeah, that is true. Now, I mean, seeing as you say that you're all for it, I'm gonna, take the other side of that coin immediately, just because.
Do you like being wrong, do you?
Just because, yeah. Oh well, yeah. I see what you've done.
Go on, no, go on.
So I think you could argue that it's a good thing. Some would argue that maybe you completely missed the point of the game then, because the whole point is to be able to construct this deck which all flows together, and you get your upgrade, you get your objectives, you score your glory, you get your upgrades, you power up your fighters, and it all kind of works into one well-oiled machine. But I will concede the fact that if one element of that whole thing doesn't quite work out, you're in for a shit time.
Yeah, but I would also say counter that is absolutely right. The way to win Underworld as it stands is to do that, what you just said. But I would counter it with, that's really boring.
Yeah.
So the logical conclusion of that is relic play.
Yes, yeah, I think I
get my glory, I put my upgrades on, you can't kill me, we both stand in the back corner of our desk, and that's it, and of our board, and that's the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you can then look at it from the point of view of, well, that's where the meta comes in and starts shifting things around, and so, one type of play becomes popular because it's really easy to win with, but Snore, it's not all about winning. so then somebody else comes up with a new way of playing which counters that meta, and then you start to get that sort of that churn. But I don't think the Underworlds game has enough variables in it to create that kind of constant churn. I feel like a new warband comes out, a new set of cards come out, within a few weeks, the minds of the world that are keen on this kind of thing will go, boom, there's a new best way to play it. Now,
going back a couple of steps from that, the Voltron meta, the various upgrades you have on to make Moloch really powerful or whatever, it's having illusion upgrades stops that, as you said. So it means that you can't do it. So it spreads the love a little bit. So it means you can play more with more of your miniatures because you know it's not all about the one guy.
And of course, you do have that thing that with illusionary cards, that if you take damage, you lose the upgrades. So if you get hit, suddenly, the guy who I'd put everything on, he's not got any of that anymore. And that could be like the first round, you could play a load of upgrades on to try and make them more survivable, but then suddenly one hit goes off and everything's gone horribly wrong. Whereas generally in the game as it stands now, once you put those upgrades on, you know for the most part they're all going to stay on there.
Yeah, and the more you've got on there, the less chance really that there's somebody will actually go after you because it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
If you've got enough Great Fortitude or type cards, or even if you miss the attack, then he's just going to paste your the person who attacked him into next week. But I also think you were saying about it you've got to make your deck most efficient. That is true. You do have to make your deck more efficient, but that will still be true. You will still have to do that. But I think that if you separate the need to score glory to power your upgrade deck, you can make more interesting objectives that people can play more interestingly towards, rather than, I mean, the sort of classic timers when you had things like calculated risk and warning shot and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, almost glory for doing nothing, or just guaranteed glory, and that was boring. Now, in some ways, it kind of
arguing against yourself.
Yeah, because you.
I'm
just saying, you could just play. You can just play these upgrades and they're done. But I feel like if you could then actually, so you could have, if you didn't have to worry about scoring the glory in the game and could build to it at the end of the game, then that's more interesting to me. You could have more interesting objectives that people would actually take.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to take a complicated objective because you need the glory to put on your upgrades.
Yeah. I also feel, and this is again, it's going a little bit away from the whole illusionary cut, all upgrades should be illusion upgrades, but I do think that, as you pointed out, with objectives being key to both upgrades and winning the game, you also obviously get glory for killing people. That kind of skews things towards always being about killing people. And I know, it's not a game about, building a thriving community and trade routes. We have Settlers of Catan and stuff, all that kind of thing. And yes, Underworlds is about people killing each other. But when you suddenly make an element of the game which both benefits you exponentially because you're taking out your opponent and you're gaining glory, it makes it all about that aspect of it. And I feel like that kind of needs to be decoupled somehow. Killing people should still be good because you've taken out your opponent's fighters, but to give glory for that as well, it's like, well, you're making it all about killing people. That's that is the aim of it now. So I don't know. I find it very hard to make my peace with that in my head these days, as I think more about Underworlds.
There's less other ways to play, especially with the objectives being face down and what have you.
Especially, but yes.
One thing I also like about this way, doing it this way, if you have an overpowered upgrade, you basically have to restrict it. There's because it goes on a good fighter and it doesn't come off and it just ruins the game. What was that one? The Hunter's Reflexes or whatever it was, where if it only stuck around for a turn or a round, it's a lot less powerful. And therefore you've got less balancing to do, less far lists and that kind of stuff, because it's only literally at the most can be spent for four activation, and there's a good chance you might, even like a lowly shot from a goblin would destroy it if you took one wound.
It makes suddenly making those ping damage attacks worthwhile again in a lot of situations, because if you had Hrothgorn sitting there with that on, and he's just running around the board all over the place like a madman as you try and just activate some of your fighters, it would make, in an illusionary upgrades world, it more worthwhile thinking, I'm just going to have a shot at him with this fighter. He's only going to do 1 damage, but bugger it, it'll get rid of that upgrade off of him, and it'll just, you know, it'll give me that bit of breathing room or something like that. And you wouldn't just see it as a wasted attack. Suddenly, those attacks that can take out upgrades mean something a lot more.
Yeah. So, and they'll never change it.
No.
But I just feel that actually it's a more fun way to play the game, and I think mainly for the reason that it stops the frustration of a bricked hand, which, you know, okay, so you could argue, well, you shouldn't have a bricked hand, you should build a deck that doesn't brick.
Yeah.
But that is a negative player experience, and you could argue it's, okay, if you've built a terrible deck, then it's your fault, but sometimes it just happens and there's just nothing you can do about it.
And I think if you've built an average deck, you've got some chance of it bricking on occasion.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't ruin the whole game for you.
No, I suppose we're looking at it from the, well, you should build a well-oiled deck. From the competitive side, well, you know, you could argue that you should be building a deck that doesn't brick.
Yeah.
Then that rules out about 95% of us, because actually the top 5% can do that. The Amans and the J. Claires of this world.
Yeah.
But most of us just pick this game up for fun.
And not only that, the Amans and so on of the world who are going to build these decks, they're all going to be very samey. They're all going to have very similar cards and stuff like that.
That's why there's a meta.
And that's, and there is that. But then that means that, like, not only is 95% of the players not going to be doing that, but 95% of the cards are going to just be ignored because we're really in favour of those cards that really make the optimal deck. And that is one aspect of the game, is coming up with the best build.
But that aspect would still be there, because there would still be illusion cards that were better than others. But maybe, I'm not quite sure, I haven't quite thought this through, but maybe if Great Fortitude was only going to last a turn, maybe you take a card that had a more interesting effect. Because the Great Fortitude is a lot less powerful if it only lasts a turn. It's still pretty powerful.
It's still pretty powerful.
But you might take something, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but you might take something that was just a bit more fun.
Well, not only that, it also makes you think about when you're going to play it, because do you play it this round? And when it's not an illusion upgrade, why wouldn't you? You might as well just play it straight away. But if it's an illusion upgrade, do I keep that card till next round? Because next round's when things are going to get really spicy. And then you've suddenly got a bit more thought there. So I think actually in some ways, whilst it makes some decisions easier, it will make the game trickier overall. And I mean, that's a good thing, right? That's what people want. They want the game to be challenging. So
and you'd have to redesign quite a number of the cards, I think. But I just think...
but not the backs. Leave the backs.
Leave the backs. It adds up some new design possibilities. I think you could have some interesting combinations more. Like, you can't have a powerful combination in the current game because it's going to happen. Because you're going to, over the course of the turn, you're going to get the cards, probably going to get the cards out that you need to put these three cards together and make a powerful combination. Illusion, you could have a very powerful effect with maybe 2 or 3 cards, but it's a risk, because if they don't all come out at once, then... You know,
do you then keep some of the cards and wait for the other cards to come up? So or even if you do get them, do you play them straight away, or do you want to keep hold of them until later on?
You've got some more design opportunities there. And one thing I've just looking at my notes over there, I did forget to say, and I should have said this earlier, in pretty much every season after Shadespire, again, this is a counter to my point in some ways, actually paying for upgrades is pointless, because you have so much glory at the end of it, it doesn't really matter that you're paying. So it's really important for a very narrow part where you haven't got any glory.
But the illusion thing has 2 aspects. One, it's making the upgrades free, which decouples it from the requirement of your objectives being flawless, but also it makes them short-lived and potentially easily discarded or destroyed by your opponent in those situations of them making an attack just to clear the upgrades off you. So
I think it's just more fun.
I think it would definitely make the game... there would definitely be a lot more things to think about in the game in that situation.
So let us know what you think. Am I talking absolute rubbish? Or do you love illusion upgrades? I know a couple of people out there have done really well with the illusionary might deck. Is it partly because you just feel free? I think it just, for me, it just frees up that... freedom! Exactly. And I mean, I'm terrible for analysis paralysis. Pete will tell you, he edits out hours and hours of silence when we're playing.
3 weeks last time.
But it doesn't matter. It's like, well, actually, there's no point in worrying about whether I need to play this. I'm just going to play it.
Yeah, there is definitely that aspect to it. Now we have played a game recently where we tried exploding crits rather than regular crits. We're going to try a few other different ways of playing Underworlds out in the future. Maybe Underworld illusion upgrades is one of them. Let us know any other aspects of the game you think could be changed or tweaked or altered to make the game more fun or even more competitive, or why not both?
Yeah, more fun is better really, but yeah,
I think so.
Both is good too.
So we'll see you soon, maybe in the Underworlds.